These fish are endangered, and so we have the super cool opportunity of growing these fish for the river.
If you have a small space and you have tap water, you can create a recovery program in your school, where you are raising endangered species and being able to help repopulate a species of fish in any river.
It's spectacular watching the next generation's enthusiasm think about these conservation issues.
Welcome back to The Working Wild U, a show about people and wildlife of the American West from the crossroads of culture and science.
I'm Hallie Mahold, Chief Programs Officer at Western Landowners Alliance. We are a network of landowners, managers, and partners dedicated to keeping the working lands of the American West whole and healthy for the benefit of both people and wildlife.
And I'm Jared Beaver, Assistant Professor and Extension Wildlife Specialist at Montana State University. My work focuses on identifying and improving conservation efforts in areas where people and wildlife share the landscape, a place many folks call the working wild.
And today on the show, we're diving into a story on the Colorado River, an ancient endangered fish, and a group of high school students who are becoming the next generation of stewards.
We're going to back up our trailer here with our fish in it here just a little ways down the boat ramp. Our hatchery technicians are going to be helping to net fish out of the trailer, and then they'll be carrying them over to the water's edge.
We're at a park in the town of Palisade, Colorado, which is situated along the Colorado River.
And these aren't your typical hatchery technicians. This hatchery is run by students from Palisade High School.
My name is Charlotte Allen. I'm a junior here at Palisade. So today is our third annual release day. So we built this hatchery in 2020 because of the pandemic. We were able to build a full hatchery in a shed that we have on campus. And so every year we raise between 200 and 250 razorback suckerfish. And we pick a day in early May and we put them into the river.
Razorback suckers are one of 4 endangered fish in the Colorado River. But students at Palisade High School, with a little help, are seeking to change that.
Patrick Steele is a science teacher and head of the hatchery program at Palisade. He told us more about the project.
Our hatchery is basically a student-run, student-focused fish hatchery where students learn how to run and operate a fish hatchery, what it takes to care for fish, and then those students are also involved with educating other students and guests that come to visit our hatchery as well, and give presentations about what we do as well.
Kale, a student at Palisade, told us all about the school's hatchery, which is in a repurposed shed behind the school.
So there's a door that you walk in, and then there's 3 tanks along the right wall, and then there's a little room that has our sump tank, which holds extra water, and then our pump room as well with our filters. And we go down every morning, feed them, siphon the tanks, scrub the tanks. We change the filters in the afternoon. Sometimes we do water change outs to make the water clear. I spend almost all year with them, all school year with them. So you get to know them and play with them more, I guess. So it's like your children.
Like their children. This high school fish hatchery sounds pretty cool, and it's clear the students are excited about it. But what exactly are razorback suckers?
Well, to find out, we asked the experts.
So our fish are super silly. They're called razorback suckerfish because they're suckerfish, so they live on the bottom and they have a little mouth that puckers, and they eat all the algae on the bottom.
They have this little hump on their back that helps them cut through water easier.
And of course, the students can't run the hatchery all on their own. Michael Gross directs the Ouray National Fish Hatchery down the road. He provides the student-run hatchery with fry, that's baby fish, and technical support.
Michael told us a little more about the fish.
Razorback suckers are the largest sucker fish in North America, is kind of their claim to fame. They're long-lived and live up to about 40 years old, and so these fish that the high schoolers raised, it's pretty neat that they might be swimming around 40 years from now, in 2060. They get 3+ feet long, up to about 40 pounds potentially. They have been swimming around the Colorado River right here in Palisade for upwards of 5 million years.
5 million years. That's quite a tenure. Okay, let's get back to the action.
We're going to release those fish.
With excitement buzzing in the crowd of over 100 people, Patrick kicks off the release with some, unusual instructions.
Though I do want to remind you that our tradition here at Palisade is when you get ready to release your fish, wish it goodwill, and then you also give it a good kiss, all right, before you release it, all right? Because I will say, sucker fish give the best kisses, all right? I dare you to challenge me on that.
So the big question I have right now is, how do we get in this situation where high school students are kissing a bunch of endangered fish that they raised in a shed out back?
Valid question, and here's Michael Gross at the Ouray National Fish Hatchery again.
A few years back, well, heck, maybe about 7 years ago at this point, Palisade High School came out to do a tour at the hatchery, and I was amazed how gung-ho this particular class was, and got talking to the teacher, Mr. Steele, and one thing led to another, and we were able to coordinate a partnership between the Upper Colorado River Endangered Fish Recovery Program, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, School District 51, the Bureau of Rec, and all these different agencies kind of came together for this project to have the students grow these fish on their on-campus fish hatchery.
So again, these fish have lived in the Colorado River for upwards of 5 million years.
Which is an incredible thing when you think about all of the things that have happened in history in those 5 million years.
Then, in the 20th century, razorback sucker populations began to plummet, leading them to be listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act in 1991. So let's talk about what changed.
In some ways, what hasn't changed? At the most simple, highest level, the Colorado River supplies water to over 40 million people and supports a $5 billion agricultural industry.
I mean, of course, the Colorado River is a very important river to our economy here in western Colorado and throughout the entire Colorado River basin, all the way down to where it empties into Mexico. And it's very important to agriculture. The Colorado River water supplies a huge amount of food for our country, especially in the wintertime.
And Patrick's right. Water from the Colorado is the lifeblood of the American West, supporting food and fiber production for much of the United States. And it provides 90% of our country's winter vegetables alone.
And so with that, of course, we've had to build, diversions and dams to be able to incorporate a strong agricultural system in the arid West.
Dams provide storage for drinking water and are also a key source of hydroelectric power in the 7 basin states. The Hoover Dam at Lake Mead and the Glen Canyon Dam at Lake Powell provide power for about 4 million people.
And there are a lot of dams and diversions on the Colorado River. The problem is, dams are a major obstacle for fish, and they can change the way water flows. And razorback suckers need to migrate in order to complete their entire life cycle. Spawning occurs during high spring flows when razorback suckers migrate to cobble bars to lay their eggs. And then the larvae drift from the spawning areas and enter backwaters or floodplain wetlands that provide a nursery environment with quiet, warm, and shallow water.
And the past century of dams and diversions on the Colorado River have largely altered that natural spring runoff cycle of the river and drastically affected the fish's ability to connect these critical habitat components.
And it's not just water development projects that have impacted these fish species.
Second to the diversions and dams would be invasive predatory fish. Fish that aren't native to the Colorado River, that have been placed in the river as sport fish, that kind of thing. Which, I'm all for sport fishing and things, but these invasive species, basically feed on these guys, right? The northern pike and smallmouth bass and walleye and some of those kind of more warm water fish that haven't been found in the Colorado River up until 40 years ago or so when they were introduced. And then our low flows that we've experienced here in the last 20 years because of some severe drought, that of course eliminates habitat for these fish.
Like with many imperiled species, there's no single cause of decline for razorback suckers. Dams and diversions, non-native species, and severe drought and weather patterns are all to blame.
But despite these challenges, there's hope. A lot of people and agencies are working to recover the fish. Palisade High School is just one project connected to the Upper Colorado River Endangered Fish Recovery Program.
The recovery program is a unique partnership of local, state, and federal agencies, along with irrigators, power interests, tribes, and environmental groups, all working to recover endangered fish in the Upper Colorado River Basin, while still allowing water development projects to continue.
So the recovery program, it was formed in 1988 as a proactive way to mitigate conflict between potential regulations under the Endangered Species Act and established water right claims to the river.
And according to Julie Stolle, who directs the recovery program, it was actually the water users who wanted to launch this ambitious collaborative effort.
The programs came out of a pretty unusual suggestion from Colorado Water Congress water users who basically said that there didn't have to be conflict here and we could figure out how to walk the line between both the Endangered Species Act and the law of the river at the same time. And the way they figured out to do that was to actually seek recovery of the species while still allowing water development to continue in the basin.
This wide-spanning collaboration meant the group could coordinate large-scale management actions that otherwise would have been impossible, such as managing dams to create peak flows, similar to spring runoff in undammed rivers, to support the migration of endangered fish to their spawning areas, while still providing water to the broad diversity of water users.
And that's not all. Over the past 35 years, the recovery program has installed fish ladders and fish screens at major diversion dams to provide endangered fish with access to hundreds of miles of critical habitat components. They've also restored floodplain areas, and they manage non-native fish species to give fish like the razorback sucker a fighting chance.
And the track record of this group and this program, it's unheard of. Not a single water development project has been halted or postponed due to the Endangered Species Act, and there haven't been any lawsuits related to the ESA compliance in the Upper Basin.
When you have all stakeholders, environmental groups, irrigators, agencies, tribes, and power interests, all at the table, it turns out your efforts are hard to argue with.
So we have 35 years of really collaborative action that has been amenable to a wide variety of partners. We are all working together to make sure that the water users have what they need and the fish have what they need.
Let's head back to the high school fish release. It turns out what these fish really need is a kiss.
You're right, John. Yeah!
One by one, students carefully grab a fish from the net, give it a sloppy wet kiss, then gently release each juvenile fish into the muddy spring runoff of the Colorado River.
For Patrick, the success of the Upper Colorado River Endangered Fish Recovery Program demonstrates values he hopes to instill in his students.
It's a balance, and that's what our students are learning, that it takes all entities to make this work, and it takes understanding that everybody's got to work together in order for water to be flowing through our river, in order for these species to thrive and be able to get them to a point where they are self-populating and we don't have to intervene anymore, that kind of thing.
And recently, the students received some positive news about fish they've released in past years.
We actually got a report in February that some of our original hatchery fish, so they would be about 3 years old at this point. They found a few of those which were full-grown adults, and if they're hanging out in spawning areas, that we're hoping that means they're spawning. And so that's really awesome to see that and get some of that data and be able to share that with our students and have them see that what you're doing matters. We're seeing success. Our fish are strong, they're healthy, and they're ready to tackle the mighty Colorado River,
It's clear to everyone involved that this isn't just about recovering the fish. This project is also about cultivating the next generation of stewards. And here's Michael Gross with the Ouray National Fish Hatchery again.
It's spectacular watching the next generation's enthusiasm think about these conservation issues, and it gives me hope for the future that this generation will be able to handle some of these conservation issues going on right now.
The director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Martha Williams, even shared a message for the students at the event.
Your fish hatchery is a testament to the importance of working collaboratively to conserve our nation's endangered species and their habitats. Congratulations on a successful year of raising an endangered species. You rock.
And so while there's no shortage of challenges facing the Colorado River and the people that live there are reasons to be hopeful.
As a result of collaborative recovery efforts like this and the Upper Colorado River Endangered Fish Recovery Program, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has proposed downlisting the razorback sucker from endangered to threatened under the Endangered Species Act.
If the decision goes through, that would mean 2 out of the 4 endangered fish on the Colorado would be downlisted, a step on the path to recovery.
And while raising an endangered species is the project at hand at Palisade High School, for high school science teacher Patrick Steele, the impact of this work is about the kids, the next generation of stewards.
We're releasing 250 fish, and a lot of people might not think that is a whole lot and makes a big impact, especially when hatcheries are growing 10 to 20,000 fish at a time. I guess the way I see it is that every kid that was down here today that got to see what we're doing, that got to handle an endangered species like the razorback sucker, got to give it a good wet slippery kiss before they released it into the river, that made an impact. And every time that they drive by the Colorado River and they look at it and they see, hey man, I helped. So, sorry. It's our students and staff work their tails off to make not only just this day happen, but just the process of learning the importance of the recovery efforts, importance of our impact on our environment and the Colorado River system, and knowing that, you know, this place matters, and you know, we want it to last forever.
Working Wild U is a production of Montana State University Extension and Western Landowners Alliance, with support from the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation and you, our listeners. This episode was written and produced by Zach Altman, with support from our hosts Jared Beaver and Hallie Mahal. Reporting and photos for this episode by Sarah Hamilton. Lewis Wirtz and Jared Beaver are our executive producers. Music is from Artlist and Blue Dot Sessions. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.